toys that he really wanted when he was a kid. And what he learned was from a very young age was he could want those toys, but either he could never get them, or it would take a lot for him to get those toys. And so the internal message that he got that stayed with him, now he's in his 30s, and it runs in the background in his head, is that things in life are either impossible or very difficult to come by. You should have seen his eyes got yay big. The light bulb that went off. Because when he internalized that message, he was a little kid, he was looking up to adults to provide for him. But in his 30s, he no longer needed to rely on others anymore. And he cleared that one little forgotten agreement he made with himself that had turned into that inner critic in his head, running in the background saying, life is tough, whatever you want is just going to be difficult. And you may never even get it. Okay? So that's an example of how powerful that subconscious programming can be. Okay? So now, having said that, why do we even need an inner critic? Wouldn't it be so much better if we don't have it? Life would be so much easier. Well, I wish that I could say wave a magic wand and it would go away, but that's not the way it works. So, why our inner critic exists really boils down to one thing and one thing only. Its job, its mission is to keep us safe. Okay? Now, why is that? Well, as a human species, we have socially and societally evolved leaps and bounds over the last several millennia. We live in a very relatively safe environment. We don't really have to worry about being attacked by a lion. We don't have to go hunting for food and be in danger versus our ancestors from the hunting and gathering days. However, physically and in terms of our brain, the way we have evolved has not nearly got caught up to the way socially we have evolved. And so we still have a part of our brain that is responsible for what I'm sure you have heard of, the fight or flight response. So when you're faced with a situation that may potentially threaten your safety, you either run or you're ready to fight. Okay? So to put it all together, our inner critic has the intelligence and sophistication of a 5-year-old, okay, or younger, maybe even younger. What do you think it's going to do when you're trying to do something that you haven't done before, and it potentially involves risks? It's going to run. It's going to say, no, we're not going to do that, right? So, in the specific context of running a business, some of you may be just starting, or you may be trying to take your business to the next level. And so what happens? You're now embarking on doing something that you haven't done before. And your brain is trying to look for evidence of success, to counter that instinct to run. And it's not finding it. Okay? It's not finding it because you haven't done it before. So one of the things that we can do, and I'll tell you more tips in just a moment, is to do what I call transferable evidence of success. So let's say, if you're just starting out your business, or if you are trying to take a business to the next level and you haven't done it before, think about something else that you have done in your life. What was it like when you first started out? You didn't have the experience, but somehow you got through it, right? So you can tell yourself that I have the perseverance, I have the skills, and I have the tenacity, and whatever qualities that you have brought to the table to get you to the success that you needed, and it applies here as well. Okay. Now, before I leave this part of the talk about what purpose that our inner critic serves to keep us safe, I also wanted to let you know that along the same lines of the research that tells us we still have that fight or flight response, is that our brain inherently has a negativity bias because of this need to be safe. So, a positive experience needs to be 5 times as powerful as a negative experience for it to be memorable and for it to stay with us. Because a negative experience is nice, but it's not connected to survival. Our brain, our instincts are still to scan our environment for what's going to threaten our survival. Okay? And so, that's the bad news. really have to work on really creating those positive thoughts and positive experience and the transferable success that I just mentioned. Here's the good news. There's also plenty of neuroscience research now that proves through conscious practice, we can actually develop new neural pathways to rewire our brain to counter this negativity bias that we currently have. So that's really great news, okay? Now, having said that, I wouldn't recommend that you go monitor your thoughts every moment of every day. It will drive you crazy. It's not tenable. So I have 2 suggestions for you before I go into 5 tactics that I offer to you today to manage your inner critic. First of all, just in terms of general consciousness practice, you may want to do it once a day or a couple of times a week when you give yourself the space and sit and notice what you're feeling. Okay? Our emotions are great indicators of our thoughts. If you happen to be feeling good, I guarantee you it's because whatever you're thinking, either your present experience or you're thinking about something in the past that really, pleased you, it would be a positive thought. On the flip side, if you feel irritable or that if someone says the wrong thing to you about to snap, I also guarantee you that if you focus on what you're thinking that produces that irritability, I bet you it's not going to be a positive thought. Okay? So that's how you can very easily start training yourself to pay attention to what it is that you're thinking without actually analyzing yourself. Just pay attention to how you feel, and that's an indication. The second thing, which is why I really want to focus the rest of my talk on, is specifically on your business or your professional life. The next time you're about to do something that scares you or stretches your comfort, whether it's the next sales call or you have a fear of speaking, you're about to stand in front of a group, or you're about to set your goals for the next year with your business. I mean, we're getting to a new year pretty soon. Before you do that, you want to be in the place of listening to that part of you that's capable and not your inner critic. And it's very doable. And I'm going to share 5 tactics that you can use in that setting. Okay? First of all, as soon as you hear or feel that feeling of, oh no, I can't. Oh, not again. This is not going to work. Any of those kinds of messages are loser alert. Whenever you feel them coming on, immediately ask, why not? Who's talking? Is that really true? Is this really not going to work? Am I really that much of a loser? And oftentimes, just by virtue of you doing that, you stop that automatic negative programming. Just by virtue of doing that. Okay? Now, if you're talking about serious business planning and you're talking about a deep fear that you've had for a long time, it actually is worth your while to give yourself space and answer those questions. Who's talking? Why not? Is this really true? And sometimes you actually may be able to trace that voice back to an adult in your childhood who meant well, but actually was fairly critical. We probably had adults like that we can think of. And so by doing so, you actually bring consciousness to the way you think. So the next time you hear that voice again, you know who's talking. Okay? The second tip that I have for you is actually, I have to credit Tony Robbins for that. So everybody has heard of Tony Robbins? Yeah. Personal development powerhouse. So one of the greatest contributions, according, in my opinion, that he has brought to this field is to connect our physical state with our mindset. And so what he would advocate, if you ever been to his events, is very high energy and very physical. He gets you jumping and all that. And so what he advocates is that you have a power move. And for me, it's yes. And that just physically snaps me into a state and shifts my energy to the part of yes, I can. And to give you another example, someone I know, when she used to be in sales, she has this power move. Yes! Every time before she went into a sales meeting. Again, is to get her jazzed and connected to that part of her that believes she can.